Good evening, fans, and welcome to episode 87 of Sports Talk with Rags. And today we have a longtime friend, Western Branch alum, part of football and baseball when he was at Western Branch, and then he went on to play at NC State in their baseball program. Ryan Pond with us this evening. Ryan, how you doing this evening?
Doing good, Rags. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Hey, thanks for being on. It's certainly great here with the success of the high school football team back in the playoffs, and having Sharon and Keith on last week, and having you on. And I know that while you were quarterback there for the varsity football program, it was definitely good success there when you were playing quarterback at Western Branch.
Yeah, I grew up. It kind of comes full circle. I grew up watching those guys. I kind of can remember when I was a kid. When I was I don't know when Sharon and Keith were doing their thing. I was 12 years old. I think my dad was teaching at Western Branch, and I was in middle school running around, and that was when they. I guess what Keith was when they had their first undefeated season and won the regional championship, or got to the regional finals, first undefeated season. And I remember Sharon, I followed him at Tech, and my aunt even went to the Sugar Bowl, and I followed that and watched that live, and that was kind of the foundation. And then luckily I was fortunate to have a very good career and follow behind them, and had a bunch of really good teammates and had a good career. And now it's awesome to see Rashad doing what he's doing, and having the success that they're having. And after the down years, it's really great. It's glad to see Western Branch football back to where it belongs.
Yes, and let's see. So I know that some of your teammates were Vince Hall, Lamont Stanfield, Josh Baker, that they're on the football side. And I see that through your 4-year career at Western Branch, you passed for 5,739 yards. Great career. And then also here we are, 2021, and like you said, Rashad and Keith were part of the first undefeated season, but you and Vince Hall and Lamont Stanfield there were part of the varsity football program that went to the state semifinal and lost in close double overtime. What was that? Fall of 2002 there against Oakton?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that back up. That one still hurts a little bit, but that was a special team, man. We were good. It wasn't just one side of the ball. We were good on both sides. We had a really, really good defense. It was there's names you mentioned, but there was also a lot of other guys. I mean, I want to say we had probably, of the starters, there was 16 or 18 guys that went on and played at the collegiate level. I mean, I'm talking guys that played Division I, Division II, Division III, up and down the line, and we were good, man. We were really, really good. We caught a couple tough breaks in that Oakton game. It was it was delayed because of a snowstorm. A couple tough breaks in overtime on a equipment violation where a guy dropped his mouthpiece. It fell out of his mouth, and they called a 15-yard penalty in double overtime with an equipment violation, where earlier in the game I had dropped my mouthpiece across the line of scrimmage and picked it up. They didn't call a flag, and then later in overtime they called it a 15-yard penalty, and that was on third down, kind of put us behind the 8 ball, and then we never could recover. But I'm not bitter or anything, as you can tell. But no, that was a special team, and I think that kind of just kind of put Western Branch back on the map and laid the foundation, and here we are, and hopefully that team can be beaten. You know what I mean? And somebody out there can top it one day, and I would love for that to happen.
Right. Yeah. And while you were telling about the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty there with the equipment, and I was kind of chuckling. Last week, I stopped by the high school for an evening practice, and I ran into Dr. Gregory, who's still helping with the program today. And he not only brought up that game, but he brought up that play too. Yep. We talked about how this team this year, right now, we're starting with home games, and then here with the state semifinal there against Oakton was on the road, and Dr. Gregory was like, Rags, with road officials, and can you believe that in double overtime, and he literally brought that same play up.
Yeah, it was just weird. A weird time for a weird, it's kind of like you're an umpire in baseball. It's kind of like calling the automatic double play in the bottom of the ninth at second base. Some rules you just stick in your pocket. We didn't really, the rule's the rule, I guess.
Right.
But it was just an odd time to call it.
Right.
Especially when it didn't affect any. It fell out. It wasn't like he decided he didn't want to wear his mouthpiece. It was just a weird time, and to have such a huge impact on the game at that time. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I saw with going to VHSL reference. 3 out of the 4 years you guys made it to the playoffs, and that was the time where they started having, I guess, two teams there from each district go to the region, because I see that a couple of times there in the early 2000s we had playoff games against Deep Creek,
twice we play. I don't know if it was 2 from each district. It was still, I think they did power ratings.
Okay.
How they did it, I'm not exactly sure. Twice, my sophomore and junior year, we played Deep Creek back-to-back weeks, or 2 out of 3 weeks. We might have played Wilson one year at the end of the season. My sophomore year, we beat them. Both years, we beat them the last week of the season. And then my sophomore year, they beat us in the playoffs. My junior year, we beat them in the playoffs. So we had some pretty good battles with Deep Creek. My freshman year, they beat us. They beat us pretty good, but they had, I think they had 4 guys on one defense ended up playing in the NFL. It was a pretty good defense they had that year.
Yeah, and I think one of those guys is now announcing there for the Washington NFL team, the local channel, and then I think local cable channel, and then Daryl Tapp is there, part of the 49er coaching staff.
Yeah. I think James Anderson was the other one, and then I think they had a lineman, Darius Leak, I think might have played somewhere. And then I think Chris Pogue was a linebacker. I think they played at Army. I don't know if he played in the NFL, but he played D1 at Army.
Okay.
They were stacked too. I know I'm kind of like you. I know a lot of random sports things, right? So.
Yeah, right. But hey, I definitely know. With my brother being at Western Branch there in the late '80s, he met your dad when he was a student there at the high school, and then when I came up in the high school, I was starting to umpire, and there when you were 8, 9 years old, umpire you in baseball. So I know that you definitely grew up with baseball. When did you start playing football? Was it middle school or?
Yeah, so football, I think I played. So I was always a Western Branch lifer with my dad and mom both teaching at Western Branch. I played 1 year of just rec football, I think, and then I played middle school football under Ricky Bright and Mike Santamara were the coaches. I played 2 years of that. And we won city championships both years that we played. We were with the same team that basically ended up playing at the high school. So we were pretty good there. That was kind of the beginning of it all. And then that same team kind of turned into what became of the varsity team the next year. And then basically going into my freshman year, It was me and another guy competing. He was a sophomore. I was a freshman, and we were battling it out in the preseason tryouts. And one day he didn't come back for practice, and it was kind of the job was mine, and there was nobody else left, so it was sink or swim. And I was a 15-year-old freshman that had never been to a class in high school football. I'd never been to a high school class before, and I was starting my first high school football game before I'd even been to a high school class. So I'd never been to school before, and we're playing Norcom on a Thursday night, I think, and I think they beat us. They had a real good running back, David Freeman, and they beat us. I'm not sure what the score was. We went 7-3 that year.
Okay.
BJ Upton beat us
Yeah.
when he was at Hickory, and then that Deep Creek team beat us that year. We went 7-3, but we had a pretty good team. But that was my freshman year. That's how it kind of all got started.
Yeah, and I guess if you're saying Thursday before you went to class, I guess it was one of those seasons where the regular season started. Thursday or Friday before Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, back then, I don't know if they still do it now or whatnot, but they let us. The first game was before the opening day of school. It was before Labor Day, and I just remember we played a game before I ever went to a high school class. And I was talk about being scared, and baptism by fire. But it prepared me for what else was out there. And if nothing else, you sink or swim. Here it comes.
Right. Yes. And so, hey, so also, you not only was great football player there in the Bruin football program, but I know that you also were in the last class there for varsity baseball to play for Coach Stanko.
Yeah. Yeah. We sent him out with a bang. You obviously have a relationship with Coach Stanko and what he meant to the high school and for coaching and teaching and everything else. And that kind of capped his career, capped my career, capped Lamont Stanfield's career, because he was just as he spent just as much time at Western Branch as I did, and as many hours that I put in, he was there right along the way. You know what I mean? And all those other guys that played with us, and Jeff Fitzgibbons, and I can name off guy after guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a crazy run that year. We lost to. I want to say we lost to Great Bridge 4 times that year, and we lost to every team in Suffolk. Lakeland, Nansemond River, and Nansemond, Suffolk included. But it doesn't really matter when you lose. It matters when you lose, not who you lose to. And we got hot at the right time, and that was Stanko's last run, and we kind of put it all together. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the mouthpiece play in the state semifinal game. I wasn't going to bring up losing to Nansemond, Suffolk baseball. If Todd and Matt and Andy, listen to this episode, that was probably the last time a spring break tournament has been held at Western Branch. I think that's when Nansemond, Suffolk came over and played us.
You would know more than I would know on that regard, but they beat us. Todd Harrell pitched and we closed, and Matt Tuttle played first base, and I'm not sure what Rivenbark did. He might have been watching. He might have played. He might have been the catcher. But they beat us. It's one of those things where it's baseball. That's why they play the game. They won, but Great Bridge beat us twice in the regular season. They beat us in the Southeastern District tournament. They beat us in the Eastern Regional Final, and then they lost in the state tournament. We didn't.
Yeah.
And then their side of the bracket, they were done, and we won, and that's it.
Yeah, and in 2014, when I was helping Coach Wright, we were getting ready to go to Northern Virginia, to play in the state semifinals, and it was Friday night. So win or lose, we were going to stay until Saturday, and some of the parents were like, hey, Mark, what did you guys do in 2004? I said, well, actually in 2004, the Great Bridge, being the number 1 seed, had a home game against War Memorial, and then the semifinals and the finals were right over here at War Memorial. So it was
the
pretty
first round,
local.
we traveled.
You guys had to travel.
We traveled, went up to, I think it was Tucker or somewhere up there. It might not have been Tucker, but it was somewhere up in Richmond, and came back late and won there. And then the last 2 games we played were at the old War Memorial before they redid it.
Right.
My freshman year, we lost. That was with Ornduff. We lost on a travel kind of weather related delay. I don't know if you heard that story or not. With I know you know Ornduff a little bit, and you've talked to him. So he was our stud then, and he was cruising it was a state quarterfinal game, I think it was, and he was unhittable. And the rains came, I think, in about the 4th inning or something. Mm-hmm. And Stanko was throwing a fit, saying he wanted to wait it out, and they obviously wanted to call it, and they called it, and we had to drive all the way back to Chesapeake, and then they had to drive next morning. Woke up and drove all the way back up there and finished it the next day. And of course, Ornduff couldn't pitch because he'd already thrown about 75 pitches. And then we lost the next day. But that was my freshman year baseball. But so that was that story. So
yeah, and I know that with my brother pitching, and then when my class came up with Jimmy, and Jason, and then Dre and Nick, they're in the 95 class. I know that they're in the late 80s, early 90s, and then in the mid 90s, Stanko had great teams, and we would lose in a pitcher's duel there at the Bayside or kick tan, or I think my senior year we made it to the state quarterfinals, but I wasn't making the grade in math, so I think my sister did the stats. But it's definitely nice there to see Coach Stanko win the state title there in 2004 and go out.
It's just one of those things, man, where it all just kind of clicked. I don't know if it was, you believe in fate or destiny or whatever, and what's meant to be is meant to be. And it was one of those runs where we got high. I didn't pitch the whole year. I had tendonitis in my shoulder, and I ended up pitching the semifinal game in the state tournament. I came back and pitched. I think I pitched in relief the quarterfinal game. Matt Olson pitched a complete game, the quarterfinal game. I pitched the semifinals, and then he ended up pitching a complete game shutout in the state final game, and then he ended up getting drafted by the Phillies a couple weeks later. But he kind of rode that horse. But you get one big hot arm in a playoff run, and you ride that, and then you have a couple breaks, and that's kind of what happened. And team you lose to, team you've lost to all year they lose, and next thing you know, you're in the finals, and then you win it, and you kind of know, you look at all your teammates and go, what happened? And then nobody really knows, but now you got a ring for it. So
right, yeah.
And if anybody would have asked me, I'd have said that the football team would have been the team that won it, but I don't have any football rings, but I got a baseball one, so that's pretty cool.
Right, yeah. Hey, and I certainly appreciate you coming on, and so after Western Branch, you went to NC State and played for Coach Avent there with Wolfpack baseball.
Yep. Went there. Played all 4 years there. Enjoyed it. I pitched a little bit, played a little bit outfield, played a little bit of first base, a little bit of third base. Enjoyed my time there. Played all 4 years. Nothing but the best for NC State. Still met some of my best friends for life there. We made the NCAA tournament all 4 years. We got to my senior year. We played at the University of Georgia in a super regional and came within one game of Omaha. Lost the first super regional, won the second one, and then lost the third game to go. But never got to Omaha. But that was certainly the kind of the building, like we said, for the football program. We kind of built something there at NC State, and they kind of piggybacked on that and kind of following them this year. I was ready to go out there this summer, man, and then they kind of all that came crashing down with COVID and whatnot, and hopefully they'll build on that again this year, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Earlier with doing this podcast, I interviewed the athletic director of South Carolina, Coach Tanner, and before he led the Gamecocks baseball program, he was at NC State. Well, when he left Raleigh and went to Columbia, Coach Avant took the head job there at Raleigh, and he's still there today. So definitely some stability there in
he just passed. He took over for Tanner, and I think he just passed over 1,000 wins or something like that. So he's been there a long, long time. I don't know how he does it. Got a passion for it. I can tell you that. He's got a lot of stories. Not a lot of them I can tell online.
So, well, hey, Ryan, I certainly appreciate your time, and let's see, you're gonna try to make it out there on Friday night.
I do want to come out there. I hadn't been back in a while, and I'm thinking about coming out there. It should be a good experience. It's cool that it's at home. You know what I mean? That's neat to be able to have a regional semifinal game at home at your own place, and hopefully they can have a good showing.
Yeah. So, but hey, so that's it, fans. Let's see. As we wrap up, any last minute words there about being part of Western Branch Athletic Program there at the high school?
No, man, I just want to say I appreciate what you've done for Western Branch Athletics and spreading the word and doing everything that you've done for Western Branch. It means a lot, and everybody appreciates it.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Certainly do appreciate that comment. And all right, fans. So here, class of 04, they're from Western Branch, and longtime friend there, Ryan Pond, joined us this evening. And I know that we brought up that Nancy Suffolk Western Branch game, and definitely remember umpiring you and Matt and Todd and Andy, as you guys were growing up. So thanks again, Ryan, and tell your parents we said hi, and I'll look for you there on Friday night.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Mark.
All right. See you.